We have an extra chair for Ultraman up here, but he didn't show up. Okay. Before we get into the details, let's do this. First, let me thank once again our new sponsor this year, the Kansai Osaka 21st Century Association Expo 70 Fund. Give them a big hand. This made it possible for us to program wonderful Japanese films and bring all these great people here. Second thing, please get ready to write your questions and do it quickly so that we have time to answer your questions. You will see on both sides, raise your hands please, volunteers who have paper and pencils. Get the pencils out and start asking. Okay, so let's begin this way. Mr. Higuchi, when did you first realize that you were a major otaku, and when did your obsession with Ultraman begin?
私はオタクではない。もっとすごいオタクがいっぱいいるので、私はまだまだ小さいオタクです。
Let me just clarify that I am not an otaku. There are some major otaku out there. I am not one of them. I am a smaller scale otaku.
最初にウルトラマン多分記憶がない1歳とか2歳の時を見ていた気がします。だからインプリンティングがウルトラマンでありゴジラで育った最初に見たキャラクターです。
So in terms of when I first saw Ultraman, I think I actually can't recall. So I think it was when I was about 1 or 2 years old. But I think there was some form of imprinting that took place at that time. I was really raised by Ultraman and Godzilla.
And Mr. Nishino, you are actually the main producer and you're an awfully young guy for a job this big. Are you a Higuchi-san fanboy? Is that how that all came about? Why are you the producer on this film?
僕も非常にウルトラマンのファンであったんですね。僕は、1987年に生まれているので、もうとっくに昭和のウルトラマンは終わってたんですけど、再放送のビデオを母親が VHS で録画してて、それを3歳から5歳まで擦り切れるように見てて、でそれが、映像とか映画への興味のきっかけで、この東宝という会社に私は入ったゴジラを作る会社なんですけど、私はゴジラよりウルトラマンの方が好きで、ウルトラマンの映画を作りたいって面接に行ったら、あなたは入る会社が違うって言われたこともあったぐらい。ただそんな中、プロデューサーの仕事をやれるようになった後、こういう曲があると知って、もちろん監督もそうですし、安野さんのことも大好きだったんで、やらせてくださいと。最初は AP でした。アシスタントプロデューサーから始まって、ただ非常に長い制作期間があって、プロデューサー僕一人ではない、メインのプロデューサーは3人いるんですけども、そのうちの1人にさせてもらって、今こうやってこの場に立ててることもすごい感謝してますし、ウルトラマンへの恩返しができたと思ってます。
I myself am also a very large Ultraman fan. Since we're in 1987, I actually missed the Showa era Ultraman, but I was able to see it when it was rebroadcast on TV. My mom would actually videotape it on the VHS. So maybe when I was anywhere from 3 to 5 years old, I was able to watch it. This really sparked my interest in images and film. To the point that I entered Toho, the production company that makes Godzilla. I actually prefer Ultraman to Godzilla, but that was something that I ended up working for. In terms of this film, I started as an assistant producer, but it really was the Higuchi and screenwriter on Mr. Ono, which was very appealing for me. This was over a long period of time. Of course, I'm not the only producer. There are 3 main producers, and I was one of them. But I'm just so grateful to have had this experience, and I also feel like it enables me to give back to Ultraman. Thanks for coming shaping.
ちなみに彼は大学の卒業論文が成田徹というウルトラマンやウルトラマンの怪獣をデザインしたデザイナーのことを卒業論文の題材にしています。
If I can share a little tidbit about Mr. Nishino, his thesis that he wrote for college was about someone named Tomoya Nishino who did the designing of Ultraman and the kaiju in Ultraman. So that's how much of a fan he is.
Yeah, so you've been a fan. So how did it feel for both of you to see it tonight with the first American audience?
感動しました。まずそれを言ってください。
I was very moved.
I was very moved. 安野が書いたすごいですよ。皮肉に満ちたセリフで皆さん笑うのがすごく僕は嬉しかったです。日本の人たちはこういう時声を出して笑わない、ニヤって笑うだけ、口だけで笑う。でもみんな声を出して笑う。それがすごく嬉しかった。
I was happy to see that the audience was very receptive to the ironic dialogue created by Mr. Ano, and to hear everyone laughing was really thrilling for me. With Japanese audiences, they don't actually make as much noise when they're appreciating something. So the sound will trickle up, but it actually won't be an audible laugh. So I was happy to hear that from everyone.
Thank you.
とても嬉しかったです。最後のブラックホールにウルトラマンが吸い込まれるところで、ちょっと何人かのお客さんが近くでこう体で動きを表現されてるとか見たりとかして、ちょっと何回も見てますけど、それで僕もまたちょっと感極まったりとかしました。でちょっとだけ申し訳ないなと思うのが、どうしてもセリフが多いのとカット代わりが早いので、字幕が読めない人が多かったと思うんですけど、心配しないでください。日本人でも最初で全てのセリフを理解して聞けた人はいませんので、繰り返し皆さん理解しているので、そこはご安心くださいと。
I was also extremely happy to be able to watch with this American audience, especially at the end, the last part, where Ultraman gets sucked up into the black hole. I looked at the members surrounding me as they were watching the film, and the people were reacting physically to what was happening. And that was something that, even though I've seen this many times, I was filled with emotion and seeing the reaction here today. One thing I do need to apologize for is that this is a pretty dense film in terms of the amount of dialogue, and I know that some people might have had a difficult time keeping up with the subtitles. They also weren't able to capture all the dialogue in the film. But let me assure you that even for a Japanese audience, most people cannot catch all the dialogue the first time.
That's part of the course with Ano.
There were a lot of words, absolutely. All right, I'm going to ask one more question and then I'm going to you because obviously you're not here to hear my questions. I heard that Being Furuya actually participated again as Ultraman. Can you tell us a little bit about?
我々の大先輩、私が子供の頃に見たウルトラマンを演技していたのが古谷敏さんという人なんですけど、彼でないとウルトラマンに見えないんです。ものすごく背が高い、日本人にしては背が高くて足が長くて腕も長くて指も長くて首も長いで頭がすごく小さい、日本人とは思えないような理想的な体型をしていたんですね。皆さんは多分理想的な体型をしている人いっぱいいると思うんですけど、我々はもう猿のようなプロポーションするんです。それ言い過ぎですね。いや、これ言わなくていいですね。また余計なことをって言います、プロデューサーが。なので、
So in terms of Bin Furuya, he actually is the OG of Ultraman. He was the original Ultraman who performed. So I thought that if it was not Bin Furuya, it would not be Ultraman. For someone Japanese, he's actually quite tall with long legs, arms, fingers, and neck. But he has a small head. So he's a Ultraman, and his proportions, his physique is really ideal. for the Ultraman character, almost to the point that he doesn't seem like he's Japanese.
そしてやはり彼がどうしても我々にとっては必要だったので、彼も実は70歳を超えている高齢なんですけど、いまだにそのプロポーションが素晴らしかったので、まず 3D スキャンといってコンピューターでデータを全部取り、そしてモーションキャプチャーといってタイツを着て動きも非常に特徴的なので、彼のパフォーマンスがどうしても欲しいということで、一番最初にこのプロジェクトで行ったことは古谷敏さんのデータを取ること。物語も決まっていないけど、オリジナルのウルトラマンと同じ動きを最初のエピソードから最後のエピソードまで全部やってもらいました。
So if we really knew that we had to have him, this is the thing we were particular about. He's actually a bit older. He's past 70 years old. But despite that fact, his proportions are still excellent. So we did a 3D scan, took all of his data for motion capture purposes. We had him wear the tights and everything. And he's very distinct in his movement as well. That was another feature of him. But he really was just perfect for this role. The first thing we did for this project was the scan, where we took all of the data from NYAFF. This is even before the story itself was established. But we knew we had to capture just how the movement of Ultraman was going to be. First episode to the last in this film.
その時に話を聞いて一番驚いたのが、ウルトラマンの構えってあるじゃないですか。こういうふうに構える。あの構えっていうのは実はジェームズ・ディーンだったんです。ジェームズ・ディーンがナイフを持ってあのポーズがすごく古谷さんは憧れていて、だからウルトラマンのポーズの中にそれを取り入れていて、我々も知らなかった。
We actually heard a fun fact for the first time when we talked with Mr. Furia. Very surprised to hear where the origin of Ultraman's stance has come from. It actually was from James Dean and the way he held himself when he was holding a knife. This was something that Furia-san really admired so much that he incorporated it into the Ultraman books.
皆さんの映画がなければウルトラマンは生まれる。
So you could say that without these American films with James Dean, we would have Ultraman.
Okay, there are so many truly otaku questions here. I have no idea what we're going to do, but I think one of the big questions is, can we expect Shin Gamera in the future?
サイレントカメラ。でも私がカメラの特撮をやってるのは皆さんご存知でしょうか。
Does everyone know that I do the tokusatsu?
Yeah. でもあの時作ったカメラが自分にとっての新カメラだったので、今新しくカメラを作るとしたらもっと若い人。ガメラを作ってる時私28歳だったんですけど、やっぱりガメラというのは若い人間が作るべきだなと思います。樋口の作ったガメラなんかつまらない、俺がもっと面白くしてやるぜっていうような人が作ってほしいなと思います。
But for me, when I made Gamera, that for me was Shin Gamera. So I think that if there were to be a new version to come out, it should be someone younger than myself. I actually was 28 when I made Gamera, so again, that was when I was a bit younger. I think that it should be made by someone who's in their youth currently, someone who looks at my work and says, oh, what director Higuchi did, that's boring, I can make it a lot more interesting. So I'm ready to pass the torch.
誰もいなかったら私がしょうがないな。
But if no one accepts, I'd be glad to do it again.
What is it about you and Mr. Anno that lets you collaborate so well together?
私はお肉が大好きで、アンナのお肉が全く食べれないんです。アンナ分のお肉を私が食べる。
I'm a big carnivore, and Mr. Anno does not eat meat, so I eat all of his portions.
すごい食べる。
I don't think that's what we were expecting to hear. Okay, let's move on. I think another really big question is, what happened to the button on, is that what it's called? The disc
Color timer.
on Ultraman's chest.
昔はここに、昔はここにランプが、信号が、
Lamp.
まあ、今回はない。なぜないか。まあ、理由はいくつもあるんですけど、一番の理由は、最初のウルトラマンをデザインした先ほど彼の卒業論文を書いた成田徹さんが、つけたくなかった。
最初のデザインが
ないんですね、なかったのをプロデューサー、彼ではないプロデューサー、その当時のプロデューサーがタイマーがないといつまでたってもウルトラマンと怪獣が戦ってスペシャルエフェクトの予算バジェットがすごくかかってしまう。バジェットを少なくするためにタイマーをつけた3分間で怪獣とウルトラマンの戦いを終わらせた。
So actually, when we talk about the second one, the button that was on the chest, this is something that started a long time ago. There's a couple of reasons, but the main reason is that the actual original version of Ultraman, we mentioned earlier that Mr. Nishino's thesis was on Tomoya Nishino, who was the original designer for Ultraman, did not actually have that on the chest to begin with. He didn't want to have it. But a producer at that time said, without the timer, you have Ultraman battling the kaiju, this is going to run on forever, and that's going to, our budget will be too bloated. So as a result, we have to have this timer, set it for 3 minutes, and that limits the time that the kaiju and Ultraman can fight.
同様にウルトラマンってやっぱり昔のウルトラマンは撮影のためにどうしても必要なものがあった。中に入る人が入るための出入り口が必要。そのために背中にファスナー、ジッパーがついてる。ジッパーを隠すためにピンがついてる。ヒレが入ってる。それも本当はつけたくなかったという話なので外しました。あと中に入るその古谷さんが外の景色を見ることができないので、昔のウルトラマンは目の下に穴が開いてる。穴をも取りました。
So in the same way, for the older version of Ultraman, there were a couple of things that were necessary during shooting. One is that for the person who was in the suit, they had to be able to get in and out, and for that purpose, there was a zipper on the back. It was hidden by fins. That was something that we didn't want to put on, so that was taken off. And then for Fukuya-san, who was in the suit, he had to be able to see outside to see what was going on around him. So in the past, there were holes just under the eyes. This is another thing that we removed.
We have many here. We have many. Thank you for the great film. Please tell us about Ultraman's real name, NYAFF. Where did that come from?
はい。
もともとスクリプトの時は、別の名前だったんです。今言わないですけど、それが編集中にちょっとまた安野さんが他のものがいいんじゃないかということでやったんですけど、いろんなその文献だったり、言語、そういうところからいろいろみんなでリサーチをして、なるべくそういうルーツがはっきりしてない言葉というのを、でもともとスクリプトにあったのはちょっとその後としたら別のルーツがちょっと見つかってしまったりとか、実在するものがあったりとかっていうことがあったんですけど、そうじゃないものを選ぶということでリピアという名前が選ばれた。
Google で検索しても出ない名前ですね。出る。
ユナイテッド・ステイツでリピアって何かあったりしますか？あった。
So originally in the script, it was a different name, but during the editing process, it was Mr. Anna who thought maybe we should change it. So we all did a bunch of research into different literature, different languages to see what possibilities might be. Our main goal was to find a word that didn't have clearly determined roots in terms of the source of the word. So originally in the script, there was a word that had there was an actual meaning that we found that was in the word. So we actually came upon Libya because we thought it was something that had no discernible roots. I think even if you do a Google search, nothing will come up in terms of the origin. I hope that's the case here in the States.
So if you've heard this word Libya, don't tell us. Were there any plans to include more kaiju in the film than you included?
はいまあでも映画というか物語の中では実はそのやっぱり怪獣の出番って前半しかなくて怪獣ってやっぱりその宇宙人に比べて野蛮というか野生的な存在なので宇宙人が出てきちゃうとその後怪獣ってものがやっぱり出づらくなっちゃったんですよね。怪獣がいる意味登場する意味があまりなくなってしまう。
It's true that during the narrative, kaiju really are only in the first portion of the movie. But in terms of comparing them to the aliens and the extraterrestrials that come later, they're a bit more barbaric or wild. So I think it would be hard to have them appear again after we see the aliens. I think it would take away from the meaning of their appearance, the significance of it.
I am now making the selection of the final question, and there are so many. Okay, maybe this isn't the best one, but I think this is pretty good. Did you have more fun working on Shin Ultraman or on Shin Godzilla?
まず僕はシン・ウルトラマンしかやってないので、シン・ウルトラマンの方が好きです。
I can definitely say that it was Shin Ultraman for me because I was not involved with Shin Godzilla.
非常に言いやすい、楽な言うのに楽です、僕は。
So for me, it's an easy answer, but for the director.
正直に言うと、まあいいや、正直に言わなくていいところです。シン・ゴジラの時は、シン・ゴジラの後に、レジェンダリーという会社のゴジラ対コングという映画が違うわ、キングオブモンスターズ。キングオブモンスターズというゴジラの映画がアメリカで作られるので、その前までに、それが公開される前にゴジラを公開しなきゃいけない。だから実はものすごく時間がなかったんです。時間のない中にゴジラを作らなければいけないという責任があったんですけど、ウルトラマンの場合、COVID のおかげで公開がどんどん延期になったんです。その間ずっと我々はウルトラマンの CG の作業をもっと良くするためにいろんなことができた。多分日本の映画でこんなに CG に時間をかけることができた映画ってこれが最高だと。アメリカよりも多分時間がかかってるかもしれない。アメリカは限られた時間の中でいろんなところでいっぱい作るあれなので、それでいくとすごく心ゆくまでウルトラマンの作業ができたのがすごく嬉しかったですね。
So in terms of, well, I was going to give you a totally honest answer. This is partially honest. In terms of Shin Godzilla, we were told that after us, there was a company called Legendary that was making a Godzilla film called King of Monsters, actually here in the States. So we had to release our film or get our film done before that point. So it was very tight in terms of time. It was a bit of a time crunch. So I had this responsibility of making the film in a limited period of time. In terms of the making of Ultraman, it was actually during COVID. And the release date kept getting extended. So as a result, we were able to have a lot of time to work on the computer graphics for Ultraman, and we had time to constantly keep improving it. I think for a Japanese film in terms of CG, it probably was the most amount of time, maybe even more than here in the States, because sometimes the time can be limited. So I really was able to work on Ultraman to my heart's content, and that was something that was really satisfying.
We will have one more screening of Shin Ultraman on Monday afternoon at 3. So I think there's like 2 or 3 pair of tickets left for that if you want to come back and see it again. Meanwhile, are you distributing in the US? What's the plan? Or is this coming out soon so that all your friends can see it?
皆さんが SNS で書けば
That requires all of you to go on social media and spread the word.
広まってないと思うので、ぜひこの作品をきっかけに広がってほしいと思いますので、皆さんぜひお願いします。
Let's do it.
I think that here in the States, people don't know Ultraman, perhaps as well as Godzilla, so I think this film is a great opportunity to get the word out.
Please do, and thanks once again.